The total cost for overheads in note number 4. Note number 4. So in note number 5, we had the cost of overheads. How much is it? You aggregate all the overheads. So when you do that computation, total overheads, you had been given the total overheads there. Total overheads is 1040,000. 1040,000, note number 5. When you add all those values that are there, you get 1040,000. I don't know, like, you've done that. So now overhead absorption rate is going to be, overhead absorption rate here. It's going to be 1040,000, and then you divide by 52,000. So what do you get here? You get shillings 20 per hour. Shillings 20 per hour. So this is going to be the rate of absorbing overheads. So remember, we want the total cost and the cost per unit. So we have product A, product B, C, and D. So we want the total cost of production. We have material cost here. Material cost. So the table there, they have given us the cost per unit of material for product A, B, and C. For product A, on that table that is given there, can you be able to see? Umeona? Kuna table wamepeana hapa. Hii hapa. Sindio? So product A, what is the cost of what is the material cost per unit? According to that table, it is 40 shillings per unit, isn't it? So product A, the cost per unit of material is 40. So here you're going to multiply the total number of units that were produced for product A times 40. So the units that were produced is 2,400 units. So the production for product A, 2,400 units. Each cost of material is 40 shillings. So you multiply 40 times 2,400, you get 96,000 here. Are we together? Are you seeing? Huh? You're not there when you're doing overhead, isn't it? So you just follow, and then are we together? So you're saying here, we are determining the total cost of this product. The total cost is a composition of material, labor, and overhead. So the total cost for material cost for product A is the total number of units that were produced, which is 2,400, and then the cost per unit, which is 40. 2,400 times 40, you get 96,000. Product B, they produce 2,000 units. When you check the same table, the cost per unit for product B is 50. So you multiply 2,000 times 50, what do you get? So you get 100,000. That is the material cost for all the 2,000 units that were produced for product B. Product C, they produce 1,600 units. The material cost per unit is 30. How much do you get? 48,000. Product D, the total units produced is 2,400 units. The material cost per unit is 60. When you multiply that one, what do you get? Huh? So you get 144,000. So that is the material cost. And then there's the labor cost. Labor cost. We also been given the same table, the cost per unit for labor. The labor rate per hour, isn't it? So per unit, is it per unit? Huh? Per unit. What is it for product A? What is the rate per unit? 28 shillings per unit, isn't it? So here you multiply 2,400 times 28. So it is 28 per unit, isn't it? Is it shillings or 28 shillings per unit, isn't it? So how much will that be? 67,200. Product B, how many shillings per unit? 21. So each unit requires 21 shillings labor cost. Now you multiply by the total number of units produced. How many units were produced? 2,000. When you multiply, what do you get? 42,000. Product C, How much per unit? 144. Huh? 14, eh? Then you multiply by 1600. How much does that? 144 is a mistake. Just rectify. It's supposed to be 14. Sorry? 22,400. And then product D, how much? Is it 21 times 24? How much do you get? 50,400. So now we have the material cost and the labor cost. And we are saying, for us to get the total cost of a product, we must have 3 items. 1, material, 2, labor, and overheads. So here we come here and write here all overheads, isn't it? So how do you determine the cost for overheads? Overhead, we said you absorb. So you're absorbing, the rate for absorption is 20 shillings per machine hours, isn't it? So now you come here and determine the total machine hours consumed for product A. How many machine hours did they use to produce product? The total units that were produced for A. So they used 2,400. Each unit required 8 machine hours. So when you multiply this one, you get the total machine hours. The total machine, and then you multiply by 20. So 2,400 here, it will be 2,400 times. So for overheads here, 2,400 for product times 8 times 20. This is the absorption rate. 2,400 times 8, you get the total machine hours. And then you multiply by 20 to get the total value for overheads. So how much will that be? Huh? Ngapi? 384? 384,000. Product B, you multiply 2,000 times 6 to get the machine hours. And then you convert them into money, which is 20. So overhead, so we gave out the method of absorbing overhead. You remember? So everything up here. Eh? 200. So this one is going to be 240. The same thing happens to product C. Product C, each unit required 4 machine hours. So we multiply 1,600 times 4, then 128, 128,000. We go to product D. Product D. Product D, you multiply 2,400 times 6, and then times 20. What do you get? 288. Is it 288,000? So you can add, in that handout, there's a problem there. You can add 1. You can add 10 to make it 288. So now we have all the items required to make up the product cost. We add them together. We add the material, labor, and overhead cost. So when you add all this, what do you get? When you add material, labor, and you get 547 here, 200. Is it so? That is the total cost. This is the total cost of product A. Product B, the total cost will be material, labor, and overheads. 100 plus 42 plus 240. Unapata ngapi? Eh? Product D, how much? 482, 400. Products B or C? $382,000. C? 198. So according to the question, it required us to determine the total cost of each product and the cost per unit. So this one will be the total cost per product. This is the total cost of producing product A. This is the total cost of producing B, C, and like that. So now this is the total cost. the cost per unit, the cost per unit is going to be the total cost divided by the number of units produced. This one is going to 547,200. You divide by 2,400 here. So you get the cost per unit. This one is going to be 382,000. You divide by 2,000. You get the cost per unit. This is 198,400. You divide 1,600. This is 482,400. You divide by, this is 1,600. So what do you get here? Product C 124 units, that is the cost per unit. Product A to B, is it 228? Product C, B, 191, isn't it? And D, 20. So 201. I think you make, there are some mistakes there on this question. So that is what we call the traditional method. Traditional method is where we have one rate for absorbing overhead across the products. But now when it comes to activity-based costing, overheads are determined based on the activity. So here we're going to write here activity-based costing, ABC. So for ABC, you need to have what we call the cost driver rate. Cost driver rate, which is equals to overheads over cost driver. So in other words, each and every activity, there will be activities, and each and every activity, it will be hard, they will attach overhead to each and every activity. So the first activity here is machining. The first activity here we have is machining. The first activity is machining. So we determine the total number of machine hours. So the machining here. So the overhead cost driver rate is going to be overheads over number of machine hours. Number of machine hours. Number of machine hours. Overhead over number of machine hours. So here we determine number of machine hours. Number of machine hours. Product A, they produce 2,400 units. Each unit requires 8 machine hours. Product B, they produce 2,000 units. Each unit requires 6 machine hours. Product C, they produce 1,600 units. Each unit requires 4 machine hours. And product D, they produce 2,400 units. Each unit requires 6 machine hours. So we can multiply 2,400 times 8, unapata ngapi? 2,400 times 8, what do you get? So this one you get 19,200. Product B to be how much? To 12,000, and C 6,000 and 14. The total will be 52,000 hours. So overhead absorption rate here, overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate, the total overhead for machining is 417,200 according to note number 5. 417,200, you divide by 52,000. So which is going to be how much? 8.02 per hour. So that is the first activity. And then the second activity that we have, the second activity. So the second is setup. Setup. So they will determine the cost driver rate. So it's going to be overheads over number of production run, number of production run. So that is a cost driver. Setup overhead over number of production run. So we have been told in note number, is it note number 3? Can you read note number 3? Is it note number 4? I think it's note number 4. The user producing production run of.
The requisitions during the month were 20 units for each of the products, while the orders executed were in batches of 10 units for each product.
And note number 2.
Overheads are absorbed using the machine overheads.
3.
The quantities produced during the month were 1,400 units, 1,000 units, 1,600 units.
There's a statement here that I want to read and you're not reading it. I don't know why you are skipping that one. There is a statement here that reads the requisition during overhead absorbed, note number 3. Note number 1. Okay. Okay, note number 1. Read note number 1. So you're being told one production run is equivalent to 10 units. So one run is equivalent to 10 units according to information number 1. So one run is equivalent to 10 units. What about if you produce 2,400 units? How many runs are those? So here we come here and determine the number of production runs. Number of production runs here. So product A, they produce 2,400 units. You divide by 10, which is 240. Product B, they produce 2,000 units. You divide by 10, which is 200. Product C, they produce 1,600 units. Divide by 10, which is 160. Product D, 2,400 units. Divide by 10, which is 240. The total number of production runs is happy. So you've been told in note number 1, for one run, one production run is equivalent to 10 units. Now the question is, if you're producing 2,400 units, how many runs are those? So you divide by 10, you get 240. Then you sum them up, all of them together. So when you add them all together, what do you get? So this is the total number of production run is 840. And then the overhead allocated to setup, according to note number 5. The total overhead allocated to setup is how much? The overhead allocated to setup, 210. So now overhead absorption rate here is going to be 210,000. You divide by 840, which is, so it's going to be 250 per run. That is number 3. You must get this, what you call cost driver rates. Number 3, to code number, activity number 3, which is stores receiving. So we're going to stores receiving. The stores receiving, the cost driver is going to be overheads over number of requisition raised. That is the cost driver. Number of requisition raised. Number of requisition raised. Overhead over number of requisition raised. So there's a note you had read there over, is it note number 3 or 4? Which says, so they're saying one requisition is equivalent to 20 units. So for you to requisition one requisition is equivalent to 20 units. So how many requisition will be equivalent to 2,400 units? The units that were produced. So A here, so here we're going to write number of requisition raised. So product A is going to be 2,400 divided by 20. Product B, 2,000 divided by 20. Product C, 1,600 you divide by 20. In product D, 2,400 you divide by 20. A itakuja ngapi? B, C. A itakuja ngapi? 120. B B in 100, C, C in 80, and D 20. 120. Total 120 plus 100 plus 80 plus 120. 420. So 420. So overhead absorption rate here, overhead absorption rate is going to be the total overhead allocated to stores receiving, according to number 5. What is the value of overhead? 144,000. And then you divide by 420. So what do you get? 342.86 or 9. So that is stores receiving. We go to number 4. Number 4, the next activity is inspection. So the cost driver is going to be overheads over number of production runs. Number of production runs. Number of production runs. So which is going to be overheads allocated to how much? 84,000. Is it so? And then the number of production runs we had already determined it, which was 840. So this one had already been determined before. So just divide by 840. So that's going to be 100. And then we go to number 5. Number 5, we have what? The last activity, material handling. Material handling. So it's going to be overhead, number of orders executed, number of orders executed. So here we get the number of orders executed. So there's a note there also you read directing us on how to determine the number of orders executed. So orders were executed in the batches of 10. So it means one execution is equivalent to 10 units. So this one is going to be A, 2,400 divided by 10, B, 2,000 divided by 10, C, 1,600 divided by 10, and D, 2,400 divided by 10. This is 240, 200, 160, 240, total 840. So the overheads allocated to material handling, 184, 800. You divide by 840. What do you get? Huh? 220. So it's going to be 220. So for activity-based costing, you must get the cost drivers the way we have done for each and every activity. So in other words, for each and every activity, you need to know the cost driver, and then you need to know the overheads of each and every activity. So for you to now do a question on activity-based costing, 1, each and every activity must be allocated overheads. And 2, you must know the cost driver of that particular activity. You must know the cost driver. So now we determine the total cost. So we don't need this. So we have product A, B, C, and D. Already we had done the material cost, which will be the same. Material cost for product A, it was 96,000. Product B was 100,000. Product C was 48,000. And product D, 144,000. We had labor cost. Labor cost for A was 67,200. For B was 42,000. And for C, 22,400. 50,400. Now here we come here and write overheads. So overheads are absorbed based on the activities. So the first activity is the machining. The first activity is the machining. Overhead are absorbed based on the activities. First activity is the machining. The first activity is the machining. So product A, the total machine hours used is 19,200, and the rate per machine hours is 8.0. So you're going to multiply the machine hours and this, you get A. So what do you get? Machine hours A, zilikuwa hizo ni ngapi unapata? You multiply 19,200 times 8.02. Unapata nini? Sorry? $93, 193, 153, 153,984. So this one will be 153,984. The second one, you take the total machine hours for product B, and then the rate per hour is 8.02. What do you get? $96 to 40. Product C, the total machine hours is 6,400. You multiply by 8.02. What do you get? 51,328. For product D, the total machine hours is 14,400. You multiply by 8.02. What do you get? Sorry? 115,488. We go to the next activity, which is called setup. Setup. So setup, we allocate the overhead according to the number of setups. So product A had 240 setups. The cost per setup is 250. 240 times 250, what do you get? You get 60,000. Product B had 200 setup. The cost per setup is 250. How much do you get? 50,000. Product C had 160 setup. This is product D had how many? This one is 60. We go to stores receiving. Stores receiving. Stores receiving, these had 120 requisitions multiplied by 348.86. What do you get? 41, 142, 140, 143. We can even round it off. The next one. $100 times 342. 342, 286. Sindio? 342, 86. Yeah. Multiply hii na hiyo. Unapata ngapi? 27,429. Haya, tuende kwa ya 241. 41, 183. 114. 4. free. Stores receiving. Tunaenda kwa inspection. Inspection, you multiply, it is 100 times 240, isn't it? It was according to the production run. So itakuwa, this is 24,000, isn't it? The next one is 20. The next one is 16,000, 24,000. And then we go to material handling. Material handling. So it's 240 times 220. What do you get? Huh? 52,800. $44. Next. Huh? 35,200. And lastly, 52. So now that one we have determined the total overhead cost. So overheads are absorbed based on the activities, unlike the traditional where we have one rate where we absorb all the overhead based on one rate. So here, this is the difference. And then now you add them downward, you get the total cost here. You add them downward, you get the total cost. So the first one will be how much? C. 243. 243. C. 240. 357. Like that. A. 495. Another one. B. D. 482. 442. 431. Eh? Eh? 3. Here. 386. 526. Are you sure? Huh? So we're going to get the cost per unit. So we take the total cost, which is 591.26.8, and then you divide by 2,400 units. This one you take 386, 526, you divide 2,000 units. This one 240, 357, you divide by 1,600 units. 442, 431, you divide by 2,400 unit. You get the cost per unit. So that is how we do cost. That is how we undertake activity-based costing. That is how the activity-based costing is done. That is how we. So maybe I give you a minute to write before we do another question. Is it so?